There are some people in this world who make you question how they even exist on the same planet. They're that bizarre. Whether it's their looks, their condition, or what they're capable of, it's so far off the rails, most people can't even process it. And back in the era of sideshows and freak shows, these individuals didn't get any special treatment. They were displayed as human oddities, purely for the amusement of the crowd. From a man whose body turned to stone to a true hermaphrodite. These are the 15 circus freaks you won't believe were actually real. Number 15, the doll family. They were billed as the dancing dolls, but behind the scenes, the doll family was 4 German siblings who ran American sideshows for decades. Born with dwarfism, they performed with Ringling Brothers and Barnum Circus for nearly 30 years. They also acted in cult films like Freaks and even appeared in The Wizard of Oz as Munchkins. Each had a stage name, and all 4 eventually adopted Doll after their manager died. Daisy, often dubbed Midget Mae West, was the most glamorous. Harry played dark roles in early cinema like Tweedledee in The Unholy Three. Despite the spotlight, they stayed close-knit, living together in a custom home in Sarasota with mini furniture, where they even opened a public doll's house. Daisy briefly married their chauffeur, but otherwise, they all remained together. When Tiny died in 2004, she was the last surviving member of one of the most famous performing families in circus history. Number 14, Charles B. Tripp. Charles B. Tripp had no arms, but that didn't stop him. Born in 1855 in Ontario, he learned to do everything with his feet. Carpentry, painting, shaving, photography. He mastered it all, and he made it his act. Tripp joined P.T. Barnum in 1872 and worked for Barnum's shows for over 2 decades, later performing with the Ringling Brothers. But he wasn't some sideshow shock act. He presented himself as a gentleman artist, signing promotional photos with his foot and performing on stage with poise. He often worked with Eli Bowen, a legless wonder. The two toured together, rode tandem bikes, and drew crowds with their contrast. Later in life, Tripp performed on the carnival circuit while his wife May sold tickets. He passed away in 1930 in North Carolina, reportedly from pneumonia or asthma. He was buried in Olney, Illinois. He wasn't famous for what he lacked. He was remembered for what he created with what he had. Number 13. Alexander Morrow. Alex Toomey, better known as Alexander Morrow, made sideshow history in 2003 when he became the youngest confirmed sword swallower in the United States. He was 14 years old. He practiced that same day by swallowing a coat hanger. 4 hours later, he swallowed a sword live at the Sword Swallowers Convention in Pennsylvania, right in front of seasoned performers and international press. He went on to join The Big Swallow, a record attempt where multiple performers tried swallowing swords at the same time. Though his record was later broken by Eric Clucker, who was 1 year younger, Morrow's early start put him in the spotlight. He's also part of sideshow royalty. He's the grandson of Al Toomey, one of the tallest men in circus history. While many modern acts lean into theatrics, Alexander Morrow focused on tradition, risk, and skill. He didn't just carry a family legacy, he shoved it down his throat and kept going. Number 12. The Lizard Man. Eric Sprague isn't just a freak show performer, he's a transformation in human form. We mean, for real, known professionally as the Lizard Man, he spent decades modifying his body to resemble a reptile. With green scales tattooed head to toe, filed teeth, inked lips, subdermal implants, and a split tongue, he turned himself into walking artwork. Before this, he studied philosophy and was a PhD candidate. But sideshow life called, and he answered. He performs fire-eating, sword-swallowing, the human dartboard, cranial corkscrew, and bed of nails. He's also suspended himself with hooks and lifted weights with his pierced ears, earning him a Guinness World Record. His band, Lizard Sky Nerd, even toured. You'll spot his statue in Ripley's museums worldwide, and he's appeared with the Jim Rose Circus and on tours with Slipknot and Slayer. Despite the spectacle, Sprague lives a quiet life in Austin with his wife and pet ferrets. He's not pretending to be a freak. He rewrote the definition on his own rare terms. Number 11. The Eddy Brothers. In the 1870s, William and Horatio Eddy claimed they could summon spirits. They ran seances out of their Vermont inn, the Green Tavern, drawing visitors from across the U.S. and Europe. Inside their seance room, instruments floated, lights flickered, and ghostly hands wrote on slates. But it was all a trick. Magicians later revealed that Horatio used a fake hand made of lead to fool sitters while freeing his real hand to manipulate props behind the curtain. Despite being exposed multiple times, they had powerful defenders. Helena Blavatsky, co-founder of the Theosophical Society, supported them. So did Henry Olcott, who met her at their farm. Critics like neurologist George Beard called their act a fraud, and magician Chung Ling Soo replicated their stunts with cheap props. Still, the Eddy brothers drew crowds and kept the illusion going. Their legacy wasn't spiritual, it was theatrical. They weren't mediums. They were performers with perfect timing and a deep love for misdirection. And people, still after so long, love them? Number 10. Myrtle Corbin. Myrtle Corbin was born in 1868 with dipagus, a condition that gave her 2 pelvises and 4 legs. At 13, she hit the freak show circuit as the 4-legged girl from Texas. She had 2 small legs between 2 normal-sized ones. Though she could move the inner legs, they were too weak to walk or touch the ground. Medical reports also confirmed she had 2 complete sets of reproductive organs, external and internal. Despite her condition, Corbin was cheerful and quickly became one of the top earners, pulling in up to $450 a week. P.T. Barnum added her to his show, which only expanded her fame. Soon, rival circuses started copying her act with fake 4-legged performers. At 19, Myrtle married James Clinton Bicknell and later had 5 children. When she died in 1928, just shy of her 60th birthday, her family buried her in a concrete vault. They weren't taking chances. Too many people had tried to buy her body. Number 9. Hannah Battersby. Hannah Battersby didn't stumble into the spotlight. She rolled in at over 700 pounds and cashed every check it brought her. Billed as the fattest woman in America, she stood over 6 feet tall and earned up to $200 a week in the 1880s, a massive paycheck back then. Her stage persona was matched by her off-stage life. She married John Battersby, a man known as the Living Skeleton. Together they toured the country, played up the contrast, and sold carte de visite photos by the bundle. But their marriage wasn't just for show. They had children and lived together for decades, weathering injuries, financial ups and downs, and even an adopted daughter sold as an African cannibal child. Hannah performed for 20 years and remained a top draw in the freak show circuit. Her size was real, her success was earned, and her name stayed in headlines even after her death, a true heavyweight in every sense. Number 8. Annie Jones. Annie Jones was one of the most well-known sideshow performers in history. She was born in 1865 with visible facial hair. Likely due to hirsutism, she had coarse hair on her chin even as an infant. At just 1 year old, she was already appearing at P.T. Barnum's American Museum. Barnum soon signed her to a 3-year contract at $150 per week, a fortune at the time. By age 5, she had a mustache and sideburns and became the bearded girl. Her popularity made her a target. A phrenologist once kidnapped her and tried passing her off as his child. In court, Annie ran straight to her parents, closing the case. She continued performing and even developed musical skills. In her later years, she campaigned to end the word freak in show business, but wasn't successful. She was twice married and passed away from tuberculosis in 1902 at age 37, having spent her life entirely within the circus world. Okay? Now, let's head over to Number 7. Jenny Quigley. Jenny wasn't just tiny. She was a performer before she even hit her full height. Born in Scotland in 1850, she moved to Brooklyn as a child and got scooped up by Barnum by age 13. Barnum didn't just bill her as tiny, he dubbed her the Queen of Scotland. She measured just 36 inches in adulthood, eventually topping out around 41. But it wasn't just her size that made her stand out. She had stage presence, show sense, and serious charm. She performed opera spoofs with other little people, toured the country, and even tried a psychic act later in life. For someone so often displayed as a novelty, she aged into something rare, respected. Even into her 80s, she was celebrated publicly and invited to shows. Jenny wasn't a prop in a showcase. She turned a sideshow label into a 6-decade career. Not bad for someone who never cleared 4 feet. Number 6. Zamora the Torture King. You can train for pain, but Zamora lived in it. Born Tim Cridland, he wasn't just another circus performer, he was a walking dare. His act wasn't about illusion. It was fire, needles, swords, and current. Not props, real tools. He'd skewer his own skin, swallow metal, and shock his body while barely blinking. What freaked people out more wasn't the stunts. It was how calm he stayed through them. He didn't flinch. He didn't bleed. Doctors said his nerves processed pain differently, and he leaned into it like a superpower. In the 90s, he joined the Jim Rose Circus, a raw, underground freak show that traveled the world. Zamora wasn't just a highlight. He was the bar. When TV shows needed something beyond belief, they called him. He became a legend of the new sideshow era. Torture wasn't just a trick. For Zamora, it was a job title. Number 5. Lavinia Warren. Lavinia Warren stood just over 2 feet tall, but during the peak of freak show fame, she was treated like royalty. When she married Charles Stratton, better known as General Tom Thumb, in 1863, President Lincoln invited them to the White House. The New York Times called her Queen of Beauty. Lavinia had been touring since 1858, first with her uncle's maritime exhibit, then with P.T. Barnum's American Museum. Barnum saw the couple as a gold mine. Their wedding became a public event, with crowds lining up just to glimpse them. It worked. They became international celebrities. After Stratton's death, Lavinia remarried performer Count Primo Magri, but the spotlight faded. Freak shows were slowly losing their place. Still, Lavinia kept performing until her death in 1919. She carried herself with dignity in a world built on gawking. For all the spectacle around her, Lavinia made sure she was more than a curiosity. She was admired, remembered, and never looked down on. Now, let's head over to Number 4. Fedor Yevtichev. Fedor Yevtichev was born in 1868 in Russia with hypertrichosis, a condition that caused thick hair to grow over his entire body. His father had it too. P.T. Barnum brought Fedor to the U.S. at 16 and spun a story that they'd been found living in a cave like wild animals. The truth? His father had also worked sideshows, but drank himself to death. Barnum cast Fedor as Jojo the dog-faced boy, even making him bark on stage. Though fluent in multiple languages and known for his calm personality, the public never saw past his appearance. Newspapers described him as playful as a puppy, and Barnum called him his greatest discovery. Still, Jojo was expected to play the role of an obedient sideshow curiosity. He became a huge draw, but his life stayed tied to the stage. He died of pneumonia in 1904 while touring in Greece. News of his death spread across America, and he was only 35. He deserved better, not this. Number 3. The Great Regurgitator. Haji Ali didn't need costumes or music. He swallowed and spat things out, on command. Performing in the 1920s, he became famous for one act: drinking massive amounts of water, followed by kerosene, then spitting both back out separately. He'd light the kerosene on fire, then douse it with water, all from his own stomach. Crowds didn't know whether to laugh or flinch, but it wasn't a trick. He trained his body to hold and release exact amounts. Ali's precision stunned both scientists and stagegoers. His act came from old water-spouter traditions, but no one had done it like this. He could hit targets with perfect accuracy from 6 feet away. His control over his throat and stomach wasn't just bizarre, it was unmatched. It was messy, or maybe ridiculous, but fake or fabricated, not even close. Haji Ali turned an internal quirk into a show no one could forget, and no one else could perform. He was a real legend. Number 2. The Siamese Twins. Chang and Eng Bunker were born in 1811 in Siam, now Thailand, joined at the chest by a small bridge of flesh. In 1829, a merchant spotted them swimming and offered their mother $500 to exhibit them abroad. The brothers toured the world doing backflips and playing games, but they saw little of the money. When they turned 21, they broke from their manager and ran their own show, finally keeping their profits. But they hated being stared at. Eventually they retired, became U.S. citizens, and bought a plantation in North Carolina, using the money to buy 18 enslaved people. The twins later married 2 sisters and had 21 children between them. After the Civil War ruined their finances, Chang took it hard. He began drinking heavily and had a stroke. In 1874, Chang died in his sleep. Eng woke up, found his brother dead, and passed away just hours later. Their deaths, like their lives, were inseparable. All right now, let's end this with Number 1. Le Pétoman. Joseph Pujol didn't dance, sing, or juggle. He farted for a living. Known on stage as Le Pétoman, Pujol became famous in 19th century France for one bizarre reason. He could suck air or water into his rectum and shoot it out on command. That was the act. He could blow out candles, play ocarinas with his rear, and spray water with disturbing precision. It wasn't classy, but it was real. Doctors were baffled. Audiences were obsessed. He performed to packed crowds at the Moulin Rouge and became one of Europe's most bizarre celebrities. No gimmicks, no props, just control over muscles no one thought could be trained. After his death in 1945, medical experts begged to study his body. His family said no. What he did might sound like a gag, but it was a physical talent no one else could replicate. Le Pétoman wasn't elegant, but he left an impression. People laughed, cringed, and kept coming back. If you've enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you soon.